Hi guys, I'm unable to be there today, so I made a video to help you through the lesson on tax tip and markup. Please be kind to the guest in our classroom, our substitute teacher. Please make sure that you're being as helpful as possible. To be safe, let's keep our masks above our nose, let's keep our hands to ourselves, and let's make sure we use kind language to one another. And then make sure you're following directions, you're keeping your cell phones off and away during the day, and you're doing whatever you can to be a respectful student in the classroom. All right, so please meet me at lesson number 3. And our learning target today is I can solve problems involving tax, tip, and markup. So let's look at this cartoon. A man is buying a coffee, and the sign says that it's going to be 99 cents, so it's $1. But when he gets to the register, it shows $1.07. So why is the coffee $1.07? You might have guessed that it is because of sales tax. Who gets the sales tax? The state and local government get sales tax when we purchase things at stores. So in this situation, how much money does the store get to keep? The store gets to keep 99 cents because that's how much their product was worth. How much money goes to the government? The government gets the remaining 8 cents. Is sales tax always the same percent? So let's take a look at this chart of the sales tax in New York's counties. So starting with Warren County, you can see that their county and city rate is 3%, so their total sales tax is 7%. And Richmond or Staten Island, their county and city rate is a little bit higher because it's more of like an urban place. And we are Monroe County. So in Monroe County, our sales tax comes out to a total of 8%. But don't assume that all tax is going to be 8% in all math problems. It's going to fluctuate. So looking at this receipt, it looks like we went to the Boulevard on One Mission Street in San Francisco and we bought a bunch of stuff. Looks good. So you have to pay 100% of the cost of your meal. If you look, we bought some soup, some lobster linguine. 100% of the cost of the meal means we're going to have to do 100% of $78.25. First, we have to turn the percent into a decimal. So 100% as a decimal is 1. Then the word of means to multiply. And we're going to multiply by $78.25. And as you could probably guess, we would get $78.25. Then tax is 8% of the cost of the meal. So to find tax, we have to find 8% of the cost. 8% as a decimal is 0.08. And of means to multiply. So go ahead and multiply those out, see what you get for tax. All right, you should get $6.26. And do you see how that's written right on the receipt? So lastly, to find the total, we're going to add them together by doing $78.25 and adding the cost of tax, which was $6.26, and see what you get. All right, you should get $84.51, which you can see at the bottom of the receipt. However, there's a quicker way to find the total cost, and this is really what I want you to learn today. So you know how you pay 100% of the cost of your meal, and then tax is 8% of the cost of your meal? So what percent is that total that you're paying? You're paying 100% for the meal, 8% for tax. You're paying 108% total. So really, to find the total, we could just do 108% of $78.25. As a decimal, 108% is 1.08. And of means to multiply. So we're going to multiply by $78.25. Go ahead and see what you get. All right, you should also get $84.51. This is the method we're going to practice today. And you can see it's on the bottom of that receipt. So in summary, if you're just finding 8% tax, you just need to find 8%, which is 0.08 times the price. But if you're finding the cost of the meal and 8% tax, you're finding 108% of the price. So you'd multiply by 1.08 to get the total with tax. So I multiplied by 0.08 to find tax and 1.08 to find the cost with tax. So here's Bessie's Cafe. We're going to find just 8.5% tax first. So to find 8.5% tax, I'm going to turn 8.5% into a decimal by moving the decimal point over twice. So it's going to become 0.085. Then of means to multiply. So I'm going to multiply that by $10. Go ahead and find out what the tax is going to be. Okay, the tax is 85 cents. Now, to find the total cost of the meal and 8.5% tax, I'm going to take 100% for the meal, 8.5% for the tax. That means I'm paying a total of 108.5% of the price. So I'm going to find 108.5% of $10. First, change your percent into a decimal. This is 1.085 as a decimal, and we're going to multiply that by $10. Go ahead and find what the total price is with tax. Okay, you should have gotten $10.85. Okay, this problem says, which expression would you use to find the total cost of the bill, including 6% tax? Would you multiply by 0.06, 0.6? Would you multiply by 1.06? Or would you multiply by 1.6? Well, it says it wants the total cost of the bill with 6% tax. And that means I want to pay for 100% of the bill and 6% extra for tax. So that's 106%. The first option is just going to find 6%. So that's not the right answer. That would just find tax. I want 106%. So the correct option would be letter C. Now, find the cost of the meal and tax. I'd like you guys to calculate what 106% of 2588 would come out to. You should get 27.4328, but that's not how we write money. We need to round to the hundredths place, which is 2 after the decimal. So really the answer would be $27.43. Now let's talk about tipping etiquette. So what are some professions that earn tips? Well, waiting staff at restaurants earn tips, cabs, Uber, Lyft drivers, hairstylists and barbers, nail technicians, masseuses, etc. And you can see on this little chart, it says about how much we would tip each of these. So for waiting staff, it'd be 15 to 20%. For cab drivers, we usually tip around 10 to 20%. For hairstylists and barbers, 15 to 25%, and spa services, 15 to 20%. Tip is also called gratuity. So if you see the word gratuity in a word problem, they're talking about calculating how much tip someone is giving. You want to leave a 16% gratuity, which means tip. How much money is the 16% tip? So I just want to find out what 16% of $8 would be. I turn 16% into a decimal, which would be 0.16, and I multiply it, because of means multiply, times the price. Go ahead and find out how much would you leave for tip. The answer would be $1.28. Now, find the cost of the sandwich and 16% tip. So to do this, I'm finding 100% of the cost of the meal and 16% extra for tip. That would be 116% that I'd be paying. So I really want to find 116% of the price. So you change 116 into a decimal, 1.16, and you multiply it times the price. Go ahead and find out the total cost of the meal with tip. It comes out to $9.28. Find the cost of the meal and 20% gratuity. Now, again, gratuity means tip. So we're going to pay 100% of the cost of the meal and 20% tip. That's 120% total. So we're finding 120% of $11. So change 120% into a decimal and multiply by the price. Go ahead and find out what the total cost of the meal and tip is. You should find that it's $13.20. Which expression would you use to find the cost of the meal, including 19% tip? Let's see if you can figure out this one on your own. Okay, for this problem, we should have done 119% of the price. And the option that showed 119% was option B. Next, find the total cost of the meal and tip. Okay, you should have done 1.19 and multiplied it by the cost of the meal. And the answer you should have gotten is $14.28. Now, careful of option A. That's just going to find 19% tip, and this said the meal including 19% tip, so that's why we didn't choose A. Next problem, find the total cost of the meal, including 8% tax and 20% tip. When calculating the total with tax and tip, you start with 100% for the meal, and then off of that, we're also going to pay 8% for tax. So we're going to add on 8% tax. And then off of the original meal cost, we're also doing 20% tip. And the reason why we can just add these together is because they don't build off of each other. When you're calculating tax, you're calculating it on the meal. And when you're calculating tip, you're calculating it on the meal before tax. So really here, what we can do is just add all three of those percents together. And we get 128%. You'd be paying 128% of the cost of that meal. So to find out the total with tax and tip, you'd do 1.28 times the price. Go ahead and find out what that would be. So you should find that the price with tax and tip is $19.52. Next, find the cost of the meal including 6% tax and 18% tip. When calculating the total with tax and tip, start with 100% for the meal, and then we're going to pay 6% for tax based on the meal, and then we're going to do 18% for tip on the price before tax. So we just add all three of those percents together, and we find that's a total of 124%. So we're paying 124% of the meal. So please find out what that would be. That is $28.272. We're going to have to round that to the hundreds place. It'd be $28.27. You are a store owner. You buy coffee machines for a wholesale price of $30. All right, well, here's my question. Would it make sense if you sold the coffee machines to customers for $30? No. Why not? You wouldn't make any profit. And you need profit to pay for your employees, to buy future items, to pay for the store's lease, etc. So we're going to have to mark up the price of this coffee machine. And that's what we're learning about next. So we need to mark up the wholesale price to make a profit. You create a higher retail price for each item in your store. So how much would it be if we did a 40% markup? So let's figure that out. How much would a 40% markup be? So we're going to take 40% and we're going to multiply that by $30. So we change that to a decimal, 0.40, and we multiply that by 30. And we find out that would be $12. So that doesn't mean we're selling it for $12. That means we have to increase the price by $12. So what would the retail price be after this markup? It would be $42. So the retail price would be $42. A faster way of finding the retail price would be this. Customers have to pay 100% of the wholesale price that you paid as the store owner, but they're also going to pay a 40% markup. So customers are actually going to pay 140% of the wholesale price. So we have to find what 140% of the wholesale price is. So we would do 140% of 30, which is 1.40 times 30. Go ahead and calculate what that would be. You should get $42, which would be the new retail price of this coffee machine. You are a store owner. You buy a Nintendo Switch for a wholesale price of $88. Find the retail price after a 90% markup. So customers are going to have to pay 100% of the wholesale price, but we're going to make them pay 90% extra. So total, after the 90% markup, customers are going to pay 190% of the wholesale price. So to calculate this, I'm doing 1.90 times $88. Go ahead and find out what the retail price would be. Okay, the retail price would be $167.20 after that markup. Here's a trickier problem. What if you decided to mark up the price by 120%? Meaning customers would not only pay 100% of the wholesale price, but we're going to mark it up 120% extra. So customers would have to pay 220% of the wholesale price. So let's find out what that would be. We need to do 220% of $88, which would be 2.20 times 88. Go ahead and find out what you get. You should find that the price for the retail price is $193.60. That's a big hike up from $88. You are a store owner. You buy a Nintendo game for a wholesale price of $19.99. Find the retail price after a 95% markup. So customers are going to have to pay 100% of the wholesale price that you paid and 95% extra. So that would be a total of 195%. So go ahead and find what 195% of the wholesale price is. So you should have found the answer to be 38.9805, but that's not rounded correctly. We only want 2 digits after the decimal. So it'd be $38.98 when rounded to the nearest cent. What if you decided to mark up the price 160%? Find the retail price after an 160% markup. Well, customers are going to have to pay 100% of what you paid and 160% extra. So that means that total they're paying 260% of the wholesale price. So go ahead and find out what 260% of the wholesale price is. You should get 51.974, but when rounded to the nearest penny, that's $51.97. All right, go ahead and try this target practice, pause the video, and then go ahead and hit play to find the answers. So the first one says your meal is $22 and you want to leave an 18% tip. How much money should you leave for just tip? So they just want us to leave 18%. So we're just going to find 18% of 22 and do 0.18 times $22. The reason why I didn't do 118% is because they did not ask for the price of the meal with tip. They only asked for how much the tip would be, and the answer is $3.96. Next, find the total cost of a $35 meal, including 8% tax and 20% tip. So I'd start with 100%, I'd add on 8%, I'd add on 20%. That's a total of 128%. So I'm going to do 1.28, and I'm going to multiply it by the cost of $35, and I get $44.80 and 80 cents. Okay, go ahead and get started on your homework.